So I'm going to start this again. Ready, Danae? I'm going to call together the meeting of the IDA Audit and Finance Committee meeting for March 20th under special procedures created by Governor Cuomo under Executive Order 202.1 to allow for remote conference calls. On the phone for the IDA are members Richard Nolan, Sue Farrell, Tina Erzon, Stephanie Fitch, and Anasha Cummings. So I'm going. The first thing would be an approval of the January 17th, 2020 minutes. Do I have a motion? Please state your name.
This is Rich. I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Sue, I'll second.
Rich, are you in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Sue Farrell?
Aye.
Tina Erzon? Stephanie Fitch?
Aye.
Anasha Cummings? Okay, the
Do I have to
minutes
abstain from that? We went through that, but
what's that? The minutes are
do I have to
approved.
abstain from that? I know we've gone through that at some point, but whatever. I'll go for it.
Okay, we'll have an audit presentation now from Chris Stevens of Wojcicki and Company CPAs of the 2019 audit. All yours, Chris.
All right, let's try this again. You should have two reports provided to you. One should be called Report to the Board. The other one, the Financial Statements and Supplementary Information. We'll start with the Report to the Board first. This is a required communication under professional standards, which kind of summarizes the results of the audit. Starting midway down the first page, we talk about the qualitative aspects of accounting practices. Management is responsible for the accounting policies of the organization. They are disclosed in Note A to the financial statements. No accounting policies were adopted, and the application of existing policies did not change during the year. We noted no transactions that are entered into by the authority that lacked authoritative guidance or consensus, and we believe that all significant transactions were recorded in the proper period. Included in all financial statements are estimates. Not everything can be ticked and tied to a specific invoice or supporting documentation. I'd like to communicate to you what we consider the significant estimates are, and probably the most significant estimate for the IDA is the actual value of the land held for resale and development on the statement of net position. That is estimates based on an exercise, an option price, and also a third-party appraisal of the property. Difficulties encountered in performing the audit, we're happy to report we did not have any. Corrected and uncorrected misstatements were required under professional standards to communicate to you any uncorrected or corrected misstatements that came up during the audit. Management has corrected all such misstatements, and we did include one adjustment we proposed on a schedule in the back. It was just there was the accrual for the 2020 payment for the land purchase option, the $10,000 a year rental payment on that. That was accrued before year end, and since that's a 2020 payment, it didn't really. It should, in our opinion, it shouldn't have been on the financial statements at that point in time. So we proposed an entry adjustment for that. Disagreements with management. We were required to communicate you with any significant disagreements we had with management over accounting or auditing matters. And we're happy to promote report that there were none. We will be asking management to sign a management representation letter that essentially says that they responded truthfully and accurately to all our questions and provided all the information that we requested. We're not aware with any consultation by management to other outside accountants. Essentially, that would be a second opinion shopping. If we had been, they're required to communicate to us and let us know to ensure they had all the relevant facts and circumstances. If that happened, we'd communicate that to you, but we're happy to report there were no such consultation. Down under other matters, under Government Accounting Standards Board, there is an item that should be attached to all governmental financial statements. It's called the Management Discussion Analysis. That is not included in your financial statement. It doesn't. The fact that it's not there doesn't impact our opinion on the financial statement. But we like to say that it's not there. The other schedule you have is supplemental schedule you have attached to the financial statements is required of IDAs under Title I, Article 1, Title I, Article 18A of the New York State General Municipal Law, and that just summarizes the information for your different projects you have going on. It includes tax exemptions, bonds outstanding, information like that. We did perform test work of those procedures, and we will express an opinion on those in relationship to the financial statements themselves. So that is the report to the board. Is there any questions?
Does anyone have any questions?
No.
Okay.
Great.
All right, we'll move right on to the financial statements. Starting on page 1 and 2, this is our independent auditor's report to the financial statements. It describes management's responsibilities and our responsibilities in the audit, as well as communicating our opinion on the financial statements. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Our responsibility as auditors is to plan and perform our audit that allows us to express an opinion on those financial statements. And on top of page 2, that is our opinion on those financial statements, that we consider they to be fairly stated in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So that's essentially what we call an unmodified or a clean audit opinion, essentially the highest level of assurance you can get under an audit. Some other matters here, we also do refer to the management discussion analysis. The GASB requires related to governmental financial statements. It's not unusual for an organization this size to not include it, and the fact that it's not there doesn't impact our audit opinion. We also refer you to the supplementary information as well, and we did perform audit procedures on that information, and we consider it fairly stated in all material respects in relationship to the financial statements as a whole. And the last paragraph refers to our government auditing standards report. We will discuss that when we get to it at the end of the presentation. Next page, on page 3, this is your statement of net position. So this discloses all your assets and deferred outflows resources, your liabilities and deferred inflows resources, and the net position, which is essentially what's left over if you liquidate all your assets, paid off all your liabilities, net amount available. So year over year, the biggest change is probably that in cash. You saw a significant decrease in cash in the current year. The biggest culprit for that is the $300,000 grant that you provided to the LDC to help them with their environmental remediation project. Page 4 is a statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position, I'm sorry. This is essentially what an income statement would be for a for-profit company. It shows your revenues, your operating expenses, and non-operating revenues expenses, and that brings you down what's called change in net position, net income or loss during the current year. Year over year, you did see somewhat of a decrease in administration fees. Those fluctuate year to year depending on the projects you have closing. Probably the biggest change, other than that, on the statement of revenues and expenses is the significant increase in economic development. Again, that includes your $300,000 grant to the LDC to assist them. Special fees also went up quite a bit year over year. There's some increased legal fees in there. There was a brownfield opportunity area study that was performed. Also, an application related to the geothermal exchange at 1 Monument Square. All those expenses are included in that line. The other big change year over year is last year you did have an impairment loss on the land that you didn't have in the current year. after you got an appraisal on the land in the prior year, you realized the value was significantly higher than the actual fair value of the land, so you did write down in the prior year for that. You didn't have the same situation occur in the current year. Page 5 is a statement of cash flows. This is going to show you what your cash activity was during the year. See that net proceeds from cash of about $243,000 from administration fees. Payments for revenue for expenditures was about $500,000. Some interest income came in the current year, generated a slight decrease in cash of about $250,000 compared to last year. The bottom schedule just reconciles your operating income or loss to net cash provided by that operating activities. Pages 6 through 9 represent the accounting policies of the organization. They have not changed in the current year, and they are considered being in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Note B on page 9 is general required disclosures of regard to cash, includes your investment policy. Note C, general description of the land held for development. Note that you probably did have the $200,000 decrease in the prior year, but no impairment loss was considered necessary in the current year. Note D, that's general description of the land purchase option on the land held for sale. Note E just breaks down that you have designated about $62,000 of net positions for the White Eagle Founding System project. It just hasn't been expended yet. Note F describes your related party transactions. Probably the most significant ones there are the ones related with the LDC. We do have a project administration fee sharing arrangement with LDC, and we did provide just over $70,000 to them in shared project fees in the current year. And you did give them a $300,000 grant in the current year as well. Starting on page 12, this is our government audit standards report. This report communicates to you our consideration of the internal control of the organization, as well as our consideration of the organization's compliance with laws or regulations that could have a material impact on the financial statements. Related to internal control, we're required to consider your internal control to the extent it allows us to plan and perform our audit. We don't do enough test work on it to issue an opinion on your internal control, related to its effectiveness. But however, if we become aware during our testing of something that we consider a deficiency in internal control, significant deficiency or a material weakness, we're required to disclose that to you here in this report. We're happy to report that we're not aware of any such deficiencies in internal control. We're also required to report on your compliance with laws and regulations that could have a material impact on the financial statements. Had there been any non-compliance, we would have to report that here. We're happy to report that we did not come across any non-compliance that was reportable under government auditing standards. Starting on the next page shows your page 14 is one of the supplemental schedules required for the IDA. It shows a breakdown of the conduit debt you have outstanding. There's issued through the IDA. This isn't an actual debt of the IDA itself, but it is issued through the IDA so that it's tax-free for the borrowing company. And you'll see that it's a loan for RPI. You can see the outstanding balance year over year. We did audit this, and we considered it fairly stated relationship to the financial statements as a whole. There are two other schedules that we just wrapped up testing yesterday. The partner has for review. There were no findings or problems with them. They're not attached here because they haven't been fully reviewed yet. But those schedules show the list project by project, the total bond amount, lease amounts, total tax exemptions, the pilot payments that are required to be made, as well as the job numbers that are required to be disclosed in your PERS report. We include the schedule to document the testing of that related to New York State law. Are there any other questions?
No
don't have
from
any.
Tina.
Okay.
All right, well, that's my presentation on the IDA.
Okay, Justin, do I need a vote on approving this and moving it to the board? I guess
Sorry,
I'll just-
I was on mute. Yeah, we can hold off. If we're in committee now, just the consensus of hold off. If we're in committee now, just the consensus of.
We're having troubles hearing you.
Yeah, I apologize. Get off speaker. If we're in committee, it could just move from committee to the full board, and it's part of the organizational resolution when we adopt it.
Okay, great. So then, I guess unless there's any further discussion, I will ask for a motion to adjourn the Audit and Finance Committee of the IDA.
I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, so I had a motion from Rich, seconded by Tina. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, meeting is adjourned. Okay, I would like to now call a special meeting of the Audit and Finance Committee for the Capital Resource Corporation. So we have approval of the minutes of the January 17th minutes. Can I have a motion for that?
I'll make the motion.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion from Tina, and it sounded like a second from either Sue or Stephanie.
I'll second.
Is that
Two.
Sue has seconded? All in favor? Tina,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Anasha,
Aye.
Rich, and Stephanie.
Aye.
All right, so the minutes are approved. So now we'll go into the audit presentation for the CRC from Chris Stevens from Wojcicki and Company. All yours, Chris.
Okay. Again, you should have two reports. We'll start with the one that says report to the board. Related to the qualitative aspects of accounting policies, management is responsible for the selection of the accounting policies of the organization. And those are listed in Note 8 of the financial statements. There were no new accounting policies adopted in the current year or change to existing accounting policies. We noted no transactions entered into by the CRC that lacked authoritative guidance or consensus, and all significant transactions were reported in the proper period. All finance estimates do include some accounting estimates. The CRC didn't really have any significant estimates that were required to report to you. Difficulties encountered in performing the audit, we're happy to report that we did not have any. Corrected and uncorrected misstatements. Professional standards require us to communicate any misstatements identified in the audit that are particularly trivial and communicate them to you. There were no such misstatements related to the CRC's audit. We're happy to report there were no disagreements with management over accounting or auditing matters during the audit. We will be requesting a representation letter from management that essentially says that they responded truthfully to all our questions and provided all information we requested, and all the information was complete and accurate. We're not aware of the management consulting an outside accountant related to any accounting or auditing matters. And on our other matters, GASB does require attached to government financial statements a management discussion analysis, which are not included in your financial statements. The absence of that doesn't impact our audit opinion on the financial statements. It's really not that uncommon for a small government this size not to provide one. The financial statements also do have some supplemental information attached to it that we evaluated the form and content of and perform some audit procedures on, and we will issue an opinion on that in relation to the financial statements themselves. So that is a report to the board. Are there any questions?
I imagine there's none. Go ahead.
All right.
I don't have any.
Next, we'll go to the financial statements. Pages 1 and 2 of the financial statements are our audit opinion. Management is responsible for the fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. As auditors, our responsibility is to plan or perform our audit that allows us to express an opinion on your financial statements. On the top of page 2 is our opinion. This is an unmodified or a clean opinion, essentially that states that we believe the financial statements to be fairly stated in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We do note the next paragraph down that the MD&A is not included. However, that does not impact our opinion on the financial statements. Next section down refers to supplementary information that's attached to the financial statements. We did audit procedures on that information, and we consider it to be fairly stated in all material specs in relation to the financial statements as a whole. And we also issued a government audit standards report that communicates our consideration regarding internal controls and compliance, and we'll discuss that when we get to it at the end. Page 3 is a statement in that position, shows the total assets, liabilities, and net position of the organization at year end. We had about $290,000 in assets, all in cash in the current year. Year over year, you saw a significant decrease in cash. That was mainly due to a grant from the CRC to the LDC to support their environmental remediation project. There are no liabilities of the CRC at year end, so the total net position matches total expense, total assets. I mean, and it's about $290,000. Page 4 is your statement of revenues, expenses, and change in net position. It's essentially, an income statement shows total revenue, total expenses, and total change in net position year over year. You did see a slight increase in project fees year over year, the new application for RPI, but the main big change year over year is obviously the $100,000 grant provided to this LDC. You see that in the environmental economic development line is significantly higher year over year. Total change in net position is loss of $138,000 year over year. Page 5 is a statement of cash flows. This reports the cash activity of the organization year over year. Total proceeds from project fees just over $5,500, and payments for expenses and related items of $143,000 in the current year. You did have some interest income, so that led to a net decrease in cash year over year of $136,000. Between operating income or loss and change in net cash using operating activities there as well. Pages 6 through 8 represent the accounting policies of the organization. Again, there's been no change year over year, and they are considered to be in accordance with generally accepted principles. On page 8, you do have note B, provides some general information related to cash or investment policy, as well as what cash is collateralized year over year in accordance with state law. Note C provides related party transaction information. Obviously, the biggest item here obviously is the $100,000 grant to the LDC year over year. Starting on page 9, this is our government audit standards report. We considered your internal control over financial reporting to the extent that allows us to plan our audit. Don't perform enough procedures to allow us to express an opinion on the effectiveness of your internal control. However, had we been aware of it, if we were made aware of during our procedures of a deficiency in internal control, we would report that here. And we're happy to report that we did not come across any deficiencies that we considered that are reportable under government audit standards. On the top of page 10, we also consider your compliance with laws and regulations that could have a material impact on the financial statements. Had there been any non-compliance related in that area, we'd have to report that here. We're happy to report that we're not aware of any non-compliance that's reportable on the government auditing standards. And lastly, the last schedule on page 11, similar to the IDA, this shows your conduit debt outstanding at year end. This isn't debt of the organization itself, but it's bonds that are issued through the organization for outside organizations. In this case, all for RPI. Shows the amount paid in the current year. So it shows a roll forward to what's outstanding year over year. So at the end of the year, you have about $389 million in bonds outstanding, conduit debt outstanding at the end of the year. That's the financial statements. Anyone have any questions?
Oh, they're pretty straightforward.
Very clean, quick engagement. We didn't have any significant issues at all.
Great. Well, thank you.
Welcome.
And so that's that. And I guess, okay, I'll call for a motion to adjourn. There's no other comments, no questions. Hearing none.
I'll make
look
the
for a motion.
motion.
A motion to adjourn from Tina. A second.
I'll second. Sue.
Who's that? Sue. A second from Sue. And we'll just go all in favor. Say aye.
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 Okay, the Audit and Finance Committee meeting of the CRC is adjourned. Thank you. All right. Now, I'm going to call together, the March 20 Industrial Development Authority meeting to order. Under special rules, under Executive Order 202.1, we are doing this by conference call. I have 5 board members online: Richard Nolan, Sue Farrell, Tina Erzon, Stephanie Fitch, Anasha Cummings. And going through the agenda, the approval of the minutes of October 18th, those were actually, should not be on here. They were certified by Danae, and they are on record because we could not get a quorum on that. For the January 17th board meeting, we will take them up at the next meeting because I do not have a quorum of all present for that meeting as well. So we'll take that up at the next meeting. The American Theater Project Resolution, item 4, has been pulled from the agenda mainly because of coronavirus issues and Proctor's staffing issues and closing down of their facilities. So we'll come back to you with that later. As this is our annual meeting, who's reflecting? Is that me? Well, I'll turn it down a little bit. Okay, for our annual meeting, we had the annual resolution, and I think I could have Justin walk through that, although I will note that in section 4, for election of officers, Justin Nadeau is the chair, proposed chair on this, or actually he's the appointed chair by the mayor. And then last year we had Albert Watson as treasurer. He's agreed to serve again. Secretary Sue Farrell, she's agreed to serve again. And Richard Nolan now as the vice chair. He's agreed to serve. And then for section 7, appointment of staff, I'm proposing, well, me as executive director, Danae Ziegler as acting secretary, Andrew Kreshik as project manager, and Dylan Turk as economic development director. Those are all staff here that work on a day-to-day basis on IDA and CRC projects. So, Justin, you want to walk us through this at all?
Sure. I think you recapped it pretty well. The resolution's intended to adopt all of the policies you're required to visit each year. It also accepts and approves the audit that was just presented to you by your accountants. There's a section that deals with the establishment of officers. As you've outlined, Justin is seated as chair by virtue of his appointment, and the board determines the balance of the officer slate for vice chair, treasurer, and secretary. Our committees are easily established as committees of the whole. Our staff, we're fortunate to have Steve, Danae, Andrew, and Dylan as our established staff that the IDA pays for through the city each year. Steve's the FOIL officer and contracting officer, and the new chair will serve as the FOIL appeals officer. The resolution also serves to accept the IDA's parish report each year. I don't know if Steve would like to take a couple minutes to outline that kind of on a nutshell basis and address any questions the board might have on the parish
Sure.
report before we accept this resolution on a roll call vote.
Okay. So I sent this morning a revised version of the Paris report to you. We had a number of corrections that needed to be made for looking for my notes here, because the pilot amounts were incorrect, and they have been updated, and those were, I believe, the city stations, city station north, not north, east, south, and west, dinosaur, and we had corrections as well to old world provisions. And so those have been updated, and you received that this morning. I'd also like to note that we have a number, as you go through and you look at the jobs created versus jobs intended to be created, there were quite a few of them that we're going to revisit now. I mean, what you have there on the report is the actuals based on their reporting back to us, but a number of them proposed to create, and these are mostly for the housing projects, 2 jobs and created 1, such as Morrison, the 2 Blackburn projects, Morrison and School 1, 33 2nd Street, the former Daisy Bakers, because there wasn't a creation of the restaurant there, those numbers were down. All of the city stations, as we've talked about over the years, because of their issues with retail, their numbers are down. Let's see, and a couple others that were, well, let's see, First Columbia, I believe, because they had a vacancy at the Flanagan building, is down. Hudson Valley Housing said they'd create 5 versus 4, that's College Suites. And so, and Hilton Garden is a small discrepancy of 65 versus 62. So we have the numbers in the report. We will be evaluating those probably not until May is my guess. And again, they're all going to have special, even more unique circumstances now, but we will look at those. Again, those were things that were flagged in the report. And other than that, I believe all other numbers in there are accurate and current. So you were done, Justin, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, were there any questions on the annual meeting resolution
No.
or the Paris report?
I have a question on the
No.
Paris report. This is Rich.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Steve? Sorry.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I can hear you.
The numbers that you were just going over, the expected versus actual, is that baked into each of the, is it by per project, or is there an actual roll-up that has those totals that you're referring to?
What we get is in our IDA application, we base it on the number of jobs that they're going to create. So at the time, maybe it's this year or 6 years ago or 15 years ago, whatever, when we authorized the pilot, the application said we're going to retain this many jobs, or we're going to create this many jobs, or a combination thereof. And so that's the number we're basing this off of. And that's why we always go back to them and say, make sure these are realistic numbers. And then we get a report annually from them, which it's very hard to get these reports back. Everybody's been busy, and especially over the last, people wait till the last minute. Over the last week or two, it was even really tougher. But they send these reports back to us, and then that's where the numbers come from. They're actuals for 2019.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Just to clarify, so that's not in this Paris report? That's a different report that you're receiving that has that?
No, it's in the Paris report was the attachment. I think you received a number of days ago, and then the revised version was sent again this morning.
Okay.
But we're adopting that report with this resolution.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, could I have a motion to accept the annual or approve the annual meeting resolutions? And please say your name.
This is Tina. I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Tina. Do I have a second?
This is Stephanie. I'll second.
Thank you, Stephanie. We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Okay. Hearing none. Rich, please state. Rich Nolan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Sue Farrell,
Aye.
Tina Urzan,
Aye.
Stephanie Fitch,
Aye.
Anasha Cummings.
Aye.
All right. So the motion carries. The annual meeting resolution is approved. The next item is Riverwalk LLC project update. We needed to make a minor amendment. This is on River Street, across the street from Terra Kitchen, that was approved at a number of meetings ago. And there's no change to the project. We are adding in a vacant parcel to the rear of the property. So there's really no net change to the project. Justin, you need to outline the process or anything for me, please?
Sure. Just for background, the application the IDA received related to just the building parcel that the project is being constructed on. Sometime in the last few years, they purchased a parcel from the city located immediately behind the building that's along Front Street. And they didn't include that in the application, so we didn't track it within the resolutions and approval materials. Upon discovering that it's part of the project, it's a very small 0.004 parcel. It's like maybe 1,000 square feet or something. We indicated that we could add the parcel to the project by covering it with a resolution. There's no additional financial assistance being provided. It's a small parcel that's, I think, assessed at $6,000. They're not really improving it. It's just going to be part of the pilot. So this resolution is just a cleanup to allow that piece of land to be added to the project description.
All right. Thank you, Justin. Are there any questions? Can I have a motion and your name to approve the amendment?
This is Tina. I'll
Sue
make
will
the
make the
motion.
motion.
Tina, a motion by Tina. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Sue.
A second by Sue. All right. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll take a roll call vote. Rich?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
And Anasha?
Aye.
All right, so the resolution passes. Item 4, as I mentioned before, American Theater has been pulled for now. Item 5, Executive Director's Report. I would just like to basically state that because of the coronavirus, all of your city staff are working remotely. We are continuing to work on projects that are outstanding. So we do have access to our computers and we do continue to work. We will be working closely with Empire State Development. We are already working with the Chamber and the BID on looking for economic development ways to assist our Troy businesses through this crisis. And for now, if updates on what the city is doing or the IDA will go through the city's main website, and that will redirect as well as through the Chamber and the BID's website. So people looking for information can find it there. At this point, I do not believe we will probably have an April meeting. I'm not anticipating receiving any additional IDA applications. However, that may change, but I'll keep you posted as time goes. Item 6, financials. Mary Ellen, are you on?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. So everybody else
Great.
probably can. Go ahead.
Okay, so the first report is the statement of net position. As of February 29th, our total assets stand at 1.7 million, with 1.4 million of those assets in cash. Our liabilities stand at 1.1 million, leaving us with a fund balance of 678,000. The largest change to the statement of net position is the 869,000 in cash, which is the pilot payments to be paid to the city. It's reflected in cash and in the accounts payable. Any questions?
No.
Our next report is the statement of activity for the month of February. And if everybody notices, you'll see we've made some changes to the financial statements. You'll now be able to see the current period compared to the year, compared to our budget. So on the next report, the statement of activity, for the month of February, we have a $3,000 deficit. Our sources of revenue for the month were admin fees and interest income. During the month of February, our expenses were $9,700. The largest expense for the month was in auditing and accounting. Aside from that, there were no out of the ordinary expenses. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Mary Ellen. I have a motion to adopt the finance report.
I'll make the
I'll make
motion,
the
this is
motion.
Tina.
Sue?
Okay, a motion by Tina, a second by Sue. All in favor, just state aye. Or I guess I should do a roll call. Rich?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
And Anasha?
Aye.
Okay, the report is accepted. I have no old business or new business at this point. So I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Tina, a second.
Rich. Aye.
Rich. And all in favor, just say aye.
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 Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Now, we're almost there, guys. I'm going to call a meeting of the March 20th Troy Capital Resource Corporation to order. Again, we're operating under special procedures under the Executive Order number 2021 to allow for conference call meetings. This will be posted online later today, the recorded version. I have 5 board members present by conference call: Rich Nolan, Sue Farrell, Tina Erzon, Stephanie Fitch, and Anasha Cummings. And let's see. The agenda item 1, approval of the minutes from January 17th. We are going to defer that approval until next meeting. The neighborhood improvement grant, we annually receive a request from the city for $10,000 in funding. I think the letter was in your packet for the neighborhood improvement program, and it's to allow for neighborhoods to do little tiny capital projects and neighborhood improvement projects. This year, the city council has come in with their own $10,000, so we're going in. This $10,000 allows for $20,000 available in grants. And I don't know if anybody has any questions on this or comments. Anasha, do you want to state anything on this? Well, that's all right.
Sorry, took a second to get off mute, but yeah, no, it's just it's a good program to really, not only does
obviously the council's matching it, but it flourishes into a tremendous amount of volunteer effort as well that matches it many times over in terms of the effort put in. As we just fund the capital costs, we don't fund any labor costs with this, so it's volunteer projects that do a lot to improve neighborhoods throughout the city.
Thanks. And
I
we
will
will be
also
doing
note, just so everyone's aware, due to the coronavirus, we've postponed the deadline for applications to it. So the whole program is going to be pushed back a little bit, but it's still moving forward.
Okay, great. And so we will make an initial payment of $8,000, and then as things get reconciled, we'll have the final payment of $2,000 as we've done in the past. Does anybody have any questions or concerns
I
on
do.
this?
This is
Tina.
Tina, Steve. I have a question. Seeing we're doubling the amount, does that mean we're doubling the availability of twice as many applications, or are they getting more money per application?
And I'll let Anasha answer that question because it's a city council program. We're just giving them a grant.
Sure. So this is the second year we've doubled it, and last year we just made more available. And let's see. I think there was some discussion about slightly increasing the numbers. Certainly, if it gets postponed and people need bigger grants for things, we could discuss that. But I think at this point, we're just talking about spreading it a little bit more throughout more.
All right,
neighborhoods
taking more
and getting more projects.
applications. All right, okay.
Correct. Applications are capped at $1,000, but we get a lot that are much less than that. Just a couple $100 for some flowers or something like that, and then.
Correct.
All right. Any other questions? Then hearing none, can I have a motion to approve this $10,000 grant?
I'll make the
Make the
motion.
motion, Sue.
Motion by Sue, second by, who's that?
Rich.
Rich. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. I'll take a roll call vote. Rich?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
Nasha?
Aye.
Okay, the grant is approved. Thank you. Our annual meeting resolution, election of officers. This is similar to what we just did with the IDA. Usually with the CRC, we just mirror the appointments for treasurer, secretary, and vice chair from the IDA, which would make Justin Nadeau the appointed chair from the mayor, Rich Nolan as the vice chair, Sue Farrell as the secretary, and Albert Watson as the treasurer. All have agreed to serve in those capacities. And the same staffing as with the IDA, acting secretary Danae Ziegler, project manager Andrew Kreshik, and economic development director Dylan Turek. This is a much easier Paris report to get through because there's a lot less activity. There's no pilots, so you've all received that. There were no changes from what was sent out originally. And again, we're just, as Justin stated before, we are, it's the annual election of officers, setting the Audit and Finance Committee and Governance Committee as committees of the whole, appointments of staff, verification of our bylaws and procedures and policies. So, I don't know, Justin, do you want to work that through more legally than I said, or is that?
I know that was a good summary. The only major difference here is that Justin Nadeau isn't automatically chair of the CRC. He's like everybody else, subject to the board agreeing as to what the officer slate will be, because the CRC is a not-for-profit local development corporation, not a public authority like the IDA, where he's established as chair by the appointing authority. For ease of memory and for practical purposes, the IDA and CRC have mirrored their officer slates for the since the inception of the CRC in 2008. So without belaboring the point too much, typically we just use the same slate of officers on the CRC on that point. The balance of the resolution, as Steve pointed out, is largely the same as the IDA. You're accepting your audit and your management letter presented by the auditing firm, adopting policies as necessary, establishing committees, and undertaking your annual meeting activities. So it's much the same as the last go-round.
And thanks for that important correction on the chair. Are there any questions? Can I have a motion to approve the annual meeting resolution?
No.
No? Is that a no?
I'll make the motion if nobody else is.
I thought I heard no. I thought you were kidding. Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Who's that? Who made the second?
I don't know who you took for making the motion, but if it wasn't me, I'll second it.
I have Tina for the motion. Who do I have for the second?
Okay.
This is Stephanie. I will second.
Thank you, Stephanie. All right. So, any further discussion? Hearing none.
No.
I'll take a roll call vote. Rich Nolan.
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
Nasha?
Aye.
All right. So the resolution passes. I'm going to skip down. I have no executive director's report for the CRC. Mary Ellen, financials?
Sure. The first report is a statement of net position. As of 2/29, our total assets stand at $279,000, with 279 of those assets in cash. We have no liabilities, leaving us with a fund balance of $279,000. No real changes to the statement of net position. The next report is the statement of activity. And the only source for the month of February, we have an $11,000 deficit. The only source of revenue was interest income at $68. During the month of February, the expenses were $11,000. The largest expense was the grant to the city for expenses related to the neighborhood improvement project. And we had $4,000 for auditing. Aside from that, there were no other out of the ordinary expenses, all very typical.
All right. Do I have a motion to, oh, wait, yeah, that's it. A motion to approve the financials.
I'll make the
Anasha, I'll
motion.
make a motion.
Tina, and a second from Anasha. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? I heard 5 ayes, so the motion carries. And I believe that I'm going to look for, well, just a motion to adjourn, but I just want to say thank you, everyone, for bearing with us through our technical problems through this meeting, which is good that we had them today, so we'll have them ironed out by my local development corporation meeting next Friday. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
And a second.
I second. This is Stephanie.
Second.
Okay, so a motion by Tina, a second by Stephanie. All in favor?
Aye.
Signify by saying aye.
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 The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Stay in, be healthy, be good, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Aye.
Bye.
Oh,